Now, from Western North Carolina's news leader, this is News 13 This Morning.
Taking a live look at some of our cameras this morning during a wind advisory as most of the mountains are under one right now.
Almost every county in our area facing some sort of heavy wind situation out there right now, and several are actually under a high wind warning this morning.
Yeah, Jeff Bowen Bridge camera shaking a lot for us. It is Wednesday, January 9th. Thanks for waking up with us. With that wind comes the cold, Rob.
Yeah, that wind is pumping in the cold this morning. Temperatures are down by about 10 degrees this morning with the wind chills. It's feeling about 25 degrees colder as you step outside this morning. Right now, wind gusts up to around 20 and 25 miles an hour in a lot of mountain valleys. That includes portions of the upstate. The Asheville Regional Airport not reporting data this morning, but we're seeing some gusts of 30 and 35 miles an hour at times in some of the wind-prone mountain valleys. A high wind warning is in effect until 7 a.m. on Thursday for Yancey, Mitchell, Avery County, northern and western portions of McDowell County, just outside of Marion. That does include areas like Old Fort. That lasts again until 7 a.m. Thursday. Some gusts in those areas up to 55 miles an hour possible. Everyone else under a wind advisory until 7 a.m. Thursday. Gusts in these areas up to around 40 and 45 miles an hour, including some of the wind-prone mountain valleys like the French Broad River Valley. Temperatures this morning mostly in the low to mid 30s across the mountains. The foothills in the low 40s, mid 40s across the upstate. But with the wind, they're feeling more like the low to mid 20s in a lot of areas in the mountains. Mid 30s around pickup today. Not warming up much in the afternoon, but we do see sunshine. You're going to want the layers and the windbreaker around all day. Upper 30s at drop off this afternoon from your Harry's on the Hill bus stop forecast. The strongest gusts will help you time that out when the wind chill gets the coldest and how cold we get. Plus, we'll talk about those snow chances coming up.
We want to get back now to that breaking news we first told you about at 4:30. A major road in Buncombe County is closed right now due to downed power lines.
News 13's Lauren Brigman joins us live from the scene along Tunnel Road here this morning. And Lauren, where exactly is the closure?
So this is impacting a portion of Highway 70 in the area of Art Space Charter School here in Swannanoa. You might be familiar with Sherwood Road or Buckeye Cove Road. So it's near those intersections, but it's along the major thoroughfare there on Highway 70. Just moments ago, AT&T actually arrived. Crews are here assessing the damage. You see the leaning utility pole there. This is due to high winds overnight. It's brought down telephone lines, and so something that to keep in mind is that this is impacting 911 service for folks without those landlines. Of course, you need to make sure you can either use a cell phone, or if you have an emergency, go to your local fire department. So I'm told it's not impacting power lines right now, but definitely what will impact the morning drive is this road closure if you normally take Highway 70. So as a detour, you can take Buckeye Access Road, and they estimate that this road will be closed at least until 5:30. As these crews are just arriving to assess the damage, I'm estimating it may take a little bit longer than that, but of course we will be here to update you on this developing situation. No injuries or anything because of this, but just something to be aware of as you head out on your morning drive. Live in Swannanoa, Lauren Brigman, News 13.
Investigators believe the suspect who robbed banks in Asheville and Johnson City targeted another bank. This map actually shows the path of the suspect.
Yeah, you can see back on January 2nd, he was in Asheville robbing the SunTrust Bank. Then 2 days later, he moved north to rob a bank in Johnson City. And after 4 more days, he was spotted just east of Nashville in yet another bank robbery.
These are some photos from the latest holdup over in Middle Tennessee. Police say the man walked into the U.S. Bank in the town of Mount Juliet yesterday afternoon. They say he slipped the bank teller a note demanding cash. After he got the money, he ran. No one was hurt in the robbery. Investigators in North Carolina and Tennessee are working with the FBI to catch that suspect this morning.
A robbery suspect has been caught after leading authorities on a chase. That chase ended around 10 last night near Dana Road and Howard Gap Road in Henderson County. The sheriff's office says Cameron Sellers was arrested. Authorities are still looking for Christina Whittington. Both are charged with robbery with a dangerous weapon in connection with a robbery near Cayuga Road on Sunday.
Developing this morning, there's an investigation into 2 acts of vandalism to paintings on display from artist Jonas Gerard at the Asheville Regional Airport. The first incident happened early Sunday, the second on Monday. Airport police are investigating but have not released a possible motive. As we've reported, there have been protests and allegations of sexual harassment against Gerard. A spokesman for the artist says this is the latest round of anonymous acts of vandalism against him from people trying to impose their own form of, quote, justice.
We have an update on a North Carolina case that made national headlines. The man accused of kidnapping and killing Hania Aguilar was in court yesterday. It was a scheduling hearing. Officials say Michael McClellan forced the 13-year-old into a stolen SUV in November outside her home in Lumberton. Her body was found 22 days later, just miles from where she was abducted.
Just last week, we told you about a close call when a road reflector crashed through the windshield of a car. Since then, we've received several messages from viewers about similar incidents. One couple says a loose reflector crashed into their car on Hendersonville Road. It happened about 3 weeks ago near the Pardee Hospital Urgent Care. A car in front of them ran over the reflector. They say it went flying in the air, landed on the hood, and then rolled onto their windshield.
I just kept saying, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And he goes, he spit some glass out of his mouth, and I went, "Oh, dear God."
They say there was about $3,000 worth of damage to their car.
This morning, a crew will return to determine what caused a sinkhole to form under an apartment complex in McDowell County. Yesterday, residents had to be evacuated from Westwood Chateau in Marion. People had to move out of their homes not knowing when or if they will return. A private engineer hired by the Homeowners Association performed various underground tests a few months back and deemed the complex as a high threat to safety on Monday night. Residents were notified the next morning.
It was a little shocking at first because you didn't quite expect it. I work for the city police here, and it was kind of a shock to me because I didn't even know anything like that was going on. And then when I got the call, I was like, well, we'll get her out. I mean, no matter what.
Officials are working to determine whether there is an issue with the piping infrastructure from the drainage of a nearby lake or if there is underground seepage from the dam.
Coming up, what one Harlem Globetrotter did to brighten some children's faces right here in Asheville. You saw him on the morning show yesterday.
Plus, an apartment manager finds nearly a dozen live chickens inside a car. The bizarre reason neighbors gave for the chickens' location.
We have strong gusty winds this morning, but we're still watching the potential for a winter storm this weekend that could bring a mix of snow and ice to the mountains. We'll talk about what things are looking like for your Saturday and Sunday coming up.
510, welcome back. If you want to keep chickens, you have to build them a coop to protect them. But there is a big difference between a chicken coop and the kind of coop you drive.
Indeed, yes. Police and animal control officers in Iowa discovered at least 10 chickens roosting in a car. The authorities came after apartment complex managers called to report the coop serving as a coop. Now, the windows were cracked and the birds seemed healthy and had food, and there actually aren't any laws against keeping chickens in a car. But police still want to find the owner. So get ready, because this is the most disturbing part of this story. Neighbors said they don't think the owners were actually trying to get eggs. They say they just like to eat fresh chicken.
Oh.
So I find this story, it's not the fact that these chickens are living in the car. It's the fact that somebody is keeping.
It's a slaughterhouse.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't want to go there, but that's exactly
That's a horrible story.
what is happening there in that
Rob,
story, Rob.
let's talk about horrible weather instead. I think I'd rather.
I don't know. Maybe we'll have car-raised eggs in the future.
There you go. There you go.
Two possible scenarios panning out for this weekend. One includes warm air coming in slightly farther north than the other. That would mean more of a mix of sleet for us here in the mountains. Aside from snow, expecting a mix of rain, snow, and sleet regardless. But how much we see of what still up in the air slightly. Confidence is improving though that we are going to see at least some light snowfall this weekend across a good portion of our mountain areas. The second scenario here keeps this area of low pressure a little bit farther south, the cold air locked in place farther north, which would mean a little bit more snow for us. Right now, expecting a really good chance we at least see some measurable snow, about an 80% chance. Areas around Asheville, the lower mountain valleys see about an inch, 60% for 2 inches or more, about a 50-50 shot for around 3 inches, and those higher totals 4 and 5 inches dropping off there. Only about a 10% chance to see some of those higher snow totals this weekend. The European model doing a good job handling this system so far, at least as it looks right now, bringing in some light snow possibly as early as Saturday afternoon, but most of the moisture stays to our south and west until we get to Saturday evening and overnight Sunday. That's when we do expect the best chance for some light to moderate snow accumulations in the mountains, with rain mixing back in along with sleet into Sunday morning, late Sunday morning into the early afternoon. A chance for some light snow flurries to continue on Monday. Of course, we still have about 72 hours to work through this forecast. We'll keep you updated with the latest.
A special visitor brings laughter and smiles to Mission Children's Hospital.
Harlem Globetrotter Bulldog Max stopped by the hospital yesterday as part of the Smile Patrol program. Max showed off some of his moves and even taught some kids how to perform some of their own. He says it brightens his day to bring a smile to patients' faces.
So it's just about making them feel better, you know, because these kids, they've been in the hospital sometimes weeks, months at a time. So when we come here, we just want to try to take their mind off of, you know, what they're going through every day.
It's something different and something for them to expect, you know, to enjoy a different scene, I guess.
And you can see the Harlem Globetrotters this Sunday at the U.S. Cellular Center as part of the fan-powered tour. Tickets are available on their website.
Look at him. He's just so casual walking in there,
He was
spinning
so
that
fun
ball.
yesterday when we had him in here, too. Super nice. Federal workers aren't the only ones hoping for the end to a government shutdown this morning. Why? The small town in Wisconsin needs the crisis to end before they can drink water again.
We are heading into day 19 of the government shutdown.
Serena Marshall reports on the continuing battle between the president and congressional Democrats.
It's not something the president has done before.
My fellow Americans,
Sitting in the Oval Office, speaking directly to the American public, hoping to sway minds that the government should stay shut down until his border wall is funded.
this is a humanitarian crisis, a crisis of the heart and a crisis of the soul.
He didn't go so far as to declare a national emergency, but urged immediate action and support for his $5.7 billion border wall and an additional $7 billion for things like more agents, judges, and even humanitarian aid. Democrats immediately pushed back.
This president just used the backdrop of the Oval Office to manufacture a crisis, stoke fear.
The president's perception of the border often misinformed. In fact, the number of people crossing illegally has plunged over the past 2 decades, from 1.6 million in 2001 to just over 400,000 in 2016 to 361,000 last year. And the president stoked fears of terrorists pushing through, something his own State Department reported. There's no credible information that any member of a terrorist group has traveled through Mexico to gain access to the United States. On drugs,
Our southern border is a pipeline for vast quantities of illegal drugs.
the majority of hard narcotics do come through the southern border, but the DEA finds through legal points of entry. The fight hitting home for the 800,000 federal employees as farmers aren't getting their government subsidies and pilots warn about airline security.
Later today, congressional leaders head back to the White House for more negotiations. Serena Marshall, ABC News, Washington.
Waynesville leaders are working to prevent another sewage spill. There have been 2 discharges since late December. The first happened December 28th along County Road near the base of the Lake Junaluska Dam. Torrential rain flooded Richland Creek and water overburdened the sewer system. About 160,000 gallons of untreated sewage got into the creek. A mechanical failure then caused a smaller spill at the treatment plant. The Public Works Director says both spills were cleaned up and caused no health issues. David Foster says the incidents are reported to the state and he doesn't expect any ramifications.
And I would suspect, considering the amount of rain and the number of systems that had reportable sewer overflows, that they're going to say the weather was the mitigating issue.
Foster says there is a potential for the fine for the treatment plant spill due to faulty equipment. He says cameras and even smoke will be used to help identify problems along the sewer system in the County Road area.
New developments this morning on where to put a Confederate statue toppled in front of the Durham courthouse. Yesterday, a committee suggested displaying the destroyed statue in its current condition. Protesters toppled that statue back in August of 2017. Other suggestions include turning the statue's base into a public art display about the Civil War or moving it inside to a section of the courthouse where it wouldn't be seen by those who find it offensive.
While some people wanted to have the statue accessible, other people might not want to pass it all the time. So our idea was that there would be some sort of reconfiguration of the interior of the building.
The suggestions will now go to county managers and attorneys for further input.
New Overnight Australia says it's considering granting a Saudi teen refuge resettlement. The girl barricaded herself inside a hotel room in Bangkok. She publicized her case on social media, saying she feared for her safety if she's returned to her family. She was later placed in the care of UNHCR workers while her bid for refugee status was considered.
Some people in Wisconsin have to wait for the government shutdown to end to find out if their water is safe. Experts have been conducting a project on the quality of well water there. Some previous studies found more than 1 out of every 4 wells there were unsafe. The county has been waiting for more than a year to hear the results of the latest study. But now a government expert can't present the conclusions because the Department of Agriculture is actually impacted by the shutdown.
What he told us was that he would be subjecting himself to a 2-year imprisonment and a $5,000 fine if he would have come over here to explain that survey.
Wagner says the county has a long way to go before its contaminated groundwater is cleaned up, but he says residents are still frustrated that they have to keep waiting for answers.
Now, your News 13 Skywatch weather.
Well, much colder temperatures this morning across the mountains, along with the gusty winds. That 34 degrees in downtown Asheville is going to be feeling more like the low to mid 20s this morning. You can see the trees moving around, sort of. You can see the lights getting brushed or getting darkened by those trees moving around downtown Asheville right now. Our bow catcher camera, that's part of our Lester Flooring Skycam network. We do have mostly clear skies this morning, but those gusty winds are going to be a nuisance all day long, overnight tonight and into early Thursday. Seeing some gusts in those ridge tops in the purple areas, the 40 and 50 miles an hour. The mountain valleys, even seeing gusts to 25 and 35 miles an hour. The French Broad River Valley, the wind-prone areas, the valleys that face the northwest could potentially see some gusts to 40 miles an hour. Those wind gusts picking up this afternoon and this evening. We could see some of the strongest wind gusts around dinner time or just after dinner time tonight, heading into the overnight hours. Futurecast showing some gusts in the French Broad River Valley at that point to around 40 miles an hour. Most mountain valleys do start seeing the winds calm down, though, as we head into your Thursday morning, although those wind-prone areas are going to really feel cold because of the temperatures in the low 20s. Those wind gusts could make the feels like temperature get down to the single digits. Wind gusts into Friday morning, mostly calm except for some of those wind-prone areas and ridge tops. By Friday afternoon, the winds do look mostly calm, so that's the good news. A large area of low pressure still making its way through the northeast could send us a little bit of additional moisture today to fire up a few snow flurries over the higher elevations closer to the Tennessee border. The bigger impact today, though, is going to be the wind and the cold. That's going to continue into the afternoon hours, all the way through Thursday. High pressure calms down our winds as we head into Friday, but we are watching still that area of low pressure coming out of Texas that could give us that mix of wintry weather later this weekend. Still expecting some light snow totals along the Tennessee border, the higher elevations in the overnight hours tonight, but I'm not expecting significant accumulations or big impacts from that snowfall. Mid and upper 30s and low 40s across the mountains for highs today. Low to mid 40s for the foothills, mostly low 50s still across the upstate, but just about everyone stays gusty. Lows tonight into the upper teens and low 20s, mostly mid and upper 20s across the upstate. Your 7-day forecast at least warms up by the time we get to Friday, but then we cool back down with that rain and snow chance this weekend.
As we go to break, let's take a look at our featured fugitives this morning. News 13 is teaming up with the Asheville Police Department this week. Right now, deputies are looking for several people on the run. If you know any of these suspects, you can call anonymously 828-255-5050. To see a full list of suspects, go to the fugitive file section of WLOS.com.
New time right now, 5:23. Coming up, what one organization is doing to make sure the pets of federal workers stay fed during the government shutdown. Government workers in Anchorage, Alaska are getting support for their pets during the government shutdown.
The city's animal control is handing out free pet food to those affected by the shutdown. The organization says money is starting to be tight for some government employees, so the group wants to make sure they don't have to worry about feeding their four-legged family members.
It occurred to us that things may be getting a little tough for some people out there. And if they're struggling to feed their families and pay their rent or pay their mortgage, then a small thing that we could do to help out would be get our food bank set up now.
The agency is providing food for both cats and dogs.
Coming up in our next half hour, an inside look at the preparations our very own Jason Boyer is going through for Asheville's Dancing with the Stars.
We are live in Swannanoa this morning where high winds damaged a utility pole overnight. Coming up in the live report, we'll have an update about how this is impacting the morning drive.
And we're still tracking potential for a mix of snow and ice to move into the mountains this weekend. Rain and maybe some sleet even in portions of the upstate. We'll have an update on what it's looking like and how it could pan out.